Bob Sullivan, who is a former Louisiana guy. He was the engineer that made the broadcast of the Louisiana Hayride possible. He even recorded many of the acts late at night for their records, and even, I believe, signed the station on the next morning just to be sure that KWKH did the 11:30 thing across the South. And he lives now in McAllister. I'm sure there's a fascinating story about how you got from Caddo Parish, Louisiana to McAllister, Oklahoma. So, Bob, take a few minutes, not a long time, because you're going to get to perform much, much longer in a minute. But tell us a few things about how in the hell you got to McAllister.
Okay, Tony, thank you. Once again, I appreciate Tony putting this on for all of us. And I got started in radio back in 1949. I was working in Shreveport. I was born in Bossier City. But I was working in Shreveport at a steel company, fabricating company. And I was up 12 stories high on a 12-inch beam with a rivet gun. And I thought there was a better way to make a living than there. And my good friend Tillman Franks, who passed away a few years ago, I ran across him and he said, well, Bob, there's an opening at KWKH. Said the guy that's engineer there is leaving. And so I ran down and talked to Jack Jones, and we talked a little bit. And I told him I was a halfway decent musician. I played guitar and steel guitar. He said, well, you know what? Said, I don't think there's a man on staff here that knows anything about music other than turn it on. And he said, I think maybe you might be the guy I'm looking for to handle all of the live broadcasts and the live KWKH. So he hired me, be here at 4 o'clock in the morning. And I was making the ungodly sum of $35 a week. But that wasn't too bad back in 49. But anyway, that's where I started, and I don't know how y'all feel about it, but that, to me, was the golden age of country music. It'll never happen again, but I'll happen to be a part of it. Tom here was a part of it. You were a part of it. And it was just glorious to wake up in the morning at 6 o'clock, turn the radio on, and there was old Hank Williams with his guitar, and the Bales Brothers, and Johnny and Jack and Miss Kitty Wells, performing live for you, not records, but they were in the studio. And I was in the control room putting them on and off the air and giving them the commercials and all the other things. And I wished a lot of times that the young kids, like Tom said, could live that part again, you know, how exciting it was. And I played a little bit with some of the bands. Didn't need an extra guy. I'd get off at 1 o'clock in the evening and crawl in an old Jackson Packard, and we'd take off down the road with a bass fiddle inside and 2 guys on the back seat. Tom knows about this. So I rode my share of back seat Packards with bass fiddles and musicians. And we'd go out and play, and I'd get back with $6. But that wasn't too bad. You could buy a hamburger and a Coke then for 35 cents. Gasoline was 23 cents a gallon. So we're living high on the hog, and what, quit show business? No way. But no, I played some bass with Webb and some bass with Red Savine and Tommy Trent, and some people you never heard of on the Hayride. They never did have the hit record. But I've got to tell this story. When I was playing with Tommy Trent, I asked Tommy if I was playing with him. I said, Tommy, don't book no beer joints. I said, I don't like to play with beer joints. But he invariably booked the Lake Cliff nightclub over in Shreveport. And he's one of those gun and knife clubs like Tommy. And I'll forget, we were playing one night and it was raining. And we're bandstanding where you could face the door, entrance to it. And they had the big dance floor was lit, and on the side was the tables, and it was in the dark. So you couldn't see what was going on. But this old boy came in through that door, and he was drunk, and his hair was all messed up, and he was hanging onto the wall. And he sidled along out of sight over to the side here, and it wasn't 3 minutes before the darn spike broke out. You saw him alive. And the bouncer went and got him, shoved him out the front door. And we kept playing and looked up, and about 5 minutes later, that old boy came back through the door again. And this time he went on that side of the club. Well, you couldn't see him, it was dark. Sure enough, man, a big ruckus broke out, and bouncer got him and threw him out again. And it wasn't 10 minutes. I looked up and I said, Tommy, what's that old boy doing? He came in through the door again. And that bouncer was waiting for him. He got him with the seat of the pants and napped the neck and threw him out. And the old boy said, wait a minute, man, you ever join on this side of the lake?
Studio in 78. How many hit records did you engineer out of that recording like that? There's no recording studio in Shreveport. Tell them about that.
Well, first recording session I ever did with Mike Wiseman. He had a program on there. And he got a recording contract with Dot Records, and Mike came to me and he said, can you cut a record for me? I said, yeah, I guess so. I've been doing it every morning, you know. So we cut a thing called Just Sweet to Be Remembered, and I
Still play it.
And it wasn't a hit, but it established Mike as a viable bluegrass artist. Well, the next guy, he had a program on at 7:45 with Slim Whitman. And Slim came to me and he said, I need to cut a record for Imperial and I can't go to California. They want me out there for 2 weeks and I can't go. He was a postman in Shreveport. And he'd do his 7:45 program and run down to the post office, get his pouch and take off to Cedar Grove. And so we cut a thing called Indian Love Call. And it must have went 2 million records. And suddenly, no more post office. And I guess that opened the gates because after that they began to come in with acts would come in from out of town. Don Law came down from Nashville, recorded Billy Walker, Jim Reed, Mexican Joe, Gumbo, all of that stuff on Abbott. The Browns, I cut the hit records with them. And then the first rock and roll record I ever did was Dale Hawk and Susie Q. I don't know if you ever heard of it.
Well, we did.
We had pretty good luck over there. In '59, I had a chance to leave and go to take over a studio in Fort Worth, Texas, which I did. And immediately recorded 2 #1 records over there, and then moved to Dallas with another studio. And from there, I worked with everybody from Jane Brown to Sonny and Cher, you name it, I worked with them, cutting records with them. But on the hayride, what I remember most is I had the chance sitting in that control room and on the hayride watching the greatest performers in the world, live and in color, you might say.
Tell them they want to know, what was your first response to Elvis? And that audience said he changed on the hayride overnight. Tell them about that.
Well, Elvis showed up, and a lot of people wonder how did Elvis get on the hayride. There's been a million stories. Oh, I got him on.
Yeah.
T. Tommy Cottrell was playing Elvis's record around the corner at KCIJ. We never had played it. I'd heard it, and I thought, I loved it. That's All Right, Mama. The other side I didn't care for. But anyway, Tillman came in. He was managing a couple of guys named Jim and John. Yeah, Jimmy Lee and Johnny Mathis. And I'd cut a #1 record with them. Well, they wanted off. They could go to New Mexico somewhere and play. Tillman was managing. And he came to Horace and he said, can I get these guys off tonight? Because they can make $800 next Saturday night playing in New Mexico. And Horace said, no, I don't want them off. Said, they're the hottest thing going right now. I don't want them off. Tillman said, if I find somebody else to take their place that plays sort of rock and roll. And Horace said, sure. So he went and got a record, brought Elvis's record, brought it in the control room and played it. And Horace said, well, he said, I don't know about that. Said, that kid black or white? Tillman said, I don't know. He said, I've asked T. Tommy Cottrell. So he had phoned Tommy, and Tommy said, I don't know. So they phoned Memphis. And the guy up there that owned the record label, I forgot his name. Anyway.
Sam Phillips.
He said, no, the kid's white. He said, he's a good-looking kid. Horace said, well, I'd like to talk to him. He said, well, he's out driving a truck. I'll have him call you when he gets back by here. Come by every afternoon and see how his record is. And Horace said, would you like to be on the hayride? Yes, sir, man, anything. Well, he got him on that night. Elvis came down with Scotty and Bill, and they came by the control room, found the station, and came in, and it had a flat on the way down, and they looked like, you know, been drug out of town backwards. And he said, well, know where the auditorium was, and I said, well, I told him how to get there, so they went on down there. Well, that night when he went on, the reaction of the people was not there. They were lukewarm to Elvis Presley the first night. And so the rest of the group, and I know this for a fact, everybody said, oh, I knew it was going to be a hit. I didn't know a soul that night that didn't stand there and say, what is this? You know, what's going on? Who is this guy? Well, the young people came in to see Elvis. The old folks left. They're used to seeing fiddles and steel guitars, Webb Pierce and the rest of them. And when they wasn't there, Elvis took, that old folks quit coming. So when Elvis left, the old folks didn't come back. They found television by that time. And from that point on, the hayrides, you know, sort of went downhill. Now, Joey Kent, who will be here later, I hope, Joey tried about 4 years ago to revive the hayride for one night. He called it One Last Ride. I don't know if you remember it or not. But he called me and wanted me to handle a broadcast just like I did in the 50s. And he got a hold of all the old hayride people. I know what you mean. He got a hold of all the old hayride people that he could find. We got Billy Walker, Hank Lachlan, Hank Thompson, the Brown, Jimmy Martin, and Kitty Wells, and all of them. And I mean, this is my last one. So anyway, they showed up, and we had a little meeting backstage where we all sort of, you know, reunited with one another. I told Miss Kitty Wells we looked like a conventional Walmart greeter. That's my story, Tony, and I'm sticking to it.